Chuck Schumer. He's been a senator, and most people don't know this. He's been a senator in the U.S. Congress since 1904, and he is pushing for this bill. And let's hear his justification for why this genocide just has to keep going. We need it, man. We need more genocider. We need more hot cups of genocider. Don't we? Let's go, folks. Let's do it. Here he is on Morning Joe. Speaking of hot cup, one of the biggest propaganda morning shows in the world, I'd say. I'd say in the world.
We're at a turning point in America. This bill.
That part is true. We are at a turning point. The U.S. empire is being revealed for what it is, which is a murderous, blood on our hands institution of death and destruction, the largest prison state the world has ever seen, the largest military the world has ever seen, $1 trillion a year spent on military, which if you make $60,000 a year after taxes, which is an amazing amount of money to make, it would take you 16 million years to make $1 trillion. Actually, 16.6666666666666666666 million years, which is a lot of million years. That's how long it would take. And that's, I didn't make up that number, by the way. That's legit the number. And we spend that on military. And so he's right. We're at a turning point. Sorry to interrupt so early.
We're at a turning point in America. This bill is crucial, and history will look back on it and say, did America fail itself? Why is it crucial? Well,
did America fail itself implies that America stands for anything other than death and destruction around the world. I mean, I love the did America fail itself? You know what they are failing, though? Him and the rest, Democrats, Republicans, all of them. You know how they are failing Americans is not doing a damn thing for all of the Americans struggling across this nation. 2/3 of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. Almost 2/3 of Americans can't afford a house in the so-called richest country in the world. Tens of thousands of bridges are cracking and crumbling. The roads are collapsing. We've got trains that look like they're straight out of the Wild West, exploding every other day or derailing. This is a collapsing empire, and they are spending all their money on military. It's like a textbook example of how empires collapse, and they are not doing anything for Americans. So that's where America's failing themselves. So you're right on that regard. America is failing itself because these MFers, keep it clean for the kids, these MFers are failing Americans. Him and the rest of them in Congress and this one party, all right? Stop fooling yourself. Pretend this is two parties. One goddamn party.
If we don't aid Ukraine, Putin...
He doesn't even know anymore. He's just listing countries. We don't send bombs to... Saudi, I don't know anymore. Just send bombs. Just kill people. Just as long as killing's going on, then it's all good.
Will walk all over Ukraine. We will lose the war, and we could be fighting in Eastern Europe and a NATO ally in a few years.
So this is hilarious that he starts. So this is a bill that sends, quote unquote, aid, sends bombs and money to both Ukraine and Israel. The proxy war in Ukraine and the genocide to perpetrate the genocide in Israel. Now, he starts off by saying, if we don't keep funding Ukraine, Russia's going to walk all over it. No, actually, if you look at the peace deals that were going to be signed before the U.S. stopped them, Russia was not going to walk all over it. Russia was actually going to sign a pretty damn fair peace deal in which the Donbass, where there had been a genocide perpetrated before the invasion by Russia, by Ukrainian Nazis against Russian-speaking and culturally Russian people in Donbass. And yet here he is saying, oh, if we don't keep bombing and killing people in Ukraine, then Russia's going to walk all over it, and we're going to be fighting with NATO against Russia. Those are all lies, and they've been proven to be lies. Even the New York Times has shown that the amount of ground changing hands over all of 2023 between Russia and Ukraine is tiny on a map. It is a tiny amount of ground. Basically, they're fighting over inches because it's essentially a stalemate. And the only reason the U.S. really, people like him, maniacs like him, egomaniacal lunatics like him, the only reason they really want to keep it going is because to exhaust Russia's resources. And they don't care how many Ukrainians die. Hundreds of thousands, fine. Ukraine is struggling so much in this war that they're now, they have 45-year-olds fighting on the front line. Now, hell, I'm nearing 45, so I don't want to act like that's old. But in military terms, it is old. If you have 45-year-olds on the front lines, then you have exhausted your 18, your 20s, your 30-year-olds. You do not pick the 45-year. Trust me, I lay down on the ground for about 10 minutes and lower back is not good. So you do not want people in foxholes with lower back issues. You want to get your cream of the crop up there, but they've exhausted their cream. The U.S. has helped obliterate Ukraine's young men by creating this proxy war. And here you have this maniac pushing this.
Americans won't like that. If we don't help Israel defend itself against Hamas.
I love how he puts it on Americans. Like Americans want war to just keep going. Just endless war. Americans are all voting for this. Actually, 65% of Americans, 63%, something like that, want a ceasefire in Gaza. I think it might be higher than that, honestly, now. That was from months ago. But this is not what Americans want.
That perpetual war will go on and on and on. If we don't help humanitarian aid to the starving Palestinians in Gaza, hundreds of thousands could starve. And the border.
So there is, in the bill, there is this little bit of quote unquote humanitarian aid for Palestinians that's added in the bill. But if you're funding and arming the genocide against Gazans, you can't put a little in the bill that says, here's some food packets and say, oh, we helped. No, that's not how it works. Yes, it's sure. I'd rather food packets get in than not get in, but you cannot use that to pass a bill to help fund and arm a genocide. That's what this bill is. This bill is a high five to genocide while being like, but also here's a food packet. For those of you surviving, here's some food. It is so ridiculous. I mean, honestly, it is a mass shooter going into a mall and, killing 100 people and then giving 5 survivors some cupcakes. Well, I mean, would you rather them not have cupcakes? What are you, a maniac?
Order. Everyone has said it's chaos. A speaker, you just saw Speaker Johnson. He said it's chaos. We have to do something legislative a few months ago. But what has happened, in answer to your question?
And he also mentions the border where, of course, the U.S. is, in terms of human rights, is egregious at the border. We treat people like utter garbage. But if you actually wanted to decrease the amount of the harm and the amount of people coming across the border, if that was actually a priority in your world, then you would stop harming Latin American countries. We have couped every Latin American country that's doing well. We have attempted to coup the ones that are remaining that are doing well. The people coming to the United States, risking everything to come here, they're in the countries we've helped destroy. So stop destroying countries, and then you wouldn't have so many people trying to get across the border to the United States.
So this is crucial for America. It's a turning point. History is going to look over our shoulders and say, did we rise to the occasion?
Yeah, it will look over our shoulders and say, you perpetrated genocide. You were funding, arming, facilitating, propagandizing, manufacturing consent for a genocide. 28,000 people in Gaza killed in 4 months. The average percentage of children killed in modern warfare is 6 to 8%. And in Gaza, it's like 45%. Over 11,000 children murdered. 100,000 people either dead, wounded, or missing. History is going to judge this. And not because you didn't pass your funded genocide bill, you piece of human dumpster fire.
To his credit, Mitch McConnell did. But too many.
All right, I can't do any more of him. I love that he's shouting out to Mitch McConnell. Good job, Mitch McConnell, isn't it great that Mitch McConnell barely has lived to see the time when the Democrats are just so excited to have him in office. They love him because guess what? They all stand for the same thing. Do you get how the two-party system works, folks? Giant theater. A massive theater. We're all in the audience and we're all sitting there deciding which one of the actors we're pulling for. There is something in this bill that almost no one is talking about that is very important. The one Chuck Schumer was just talking about, that bill. And deep in it, you have this little fact that Michael Tracy has pointed out, that the Senate National Security Bill specifically exempts funds for Israel from congressional oversight. No matter what goes to Israel Congress cannot analyze it, cannot know what the specifics are. What kind of bombs? Is it white phosphorus? Is it war crime style bombs being sent to Israel? Congress is not allowed to oversee and analyze it. It says that any congressional notification requirement applicable to funds made available under this heading in this act for Israel may be waived if the Secretary of State determines that to do so is in the national security interests of the United States. Basically, the government can decide at any time, we're not going to tell even Congress what we're sending to Israel. Now, you have to ask yourself, why is it that the U.S. government, the Pentagon, the military, even wants that in there? Why is it they can't even tell Congress what they're sending to Israel? Probably because it has to do with war crimes. Because they know Congress is going to approve everything to Israel. I mean, Congress voted 412-1 in the House to support Israel and to equate Zionism with Judaism and anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, which is utter garbage. They voted 97-0 in the Senate. So do you think they're not going to approve Israel's bombs and death and destruction raining down from above like some sort of end times? Ironically, it's the evangelical Christians in the United States who want all the Jews in Israel to bring about the end times in which the Jews will burn in hell. Thank you, evangelicals. I look forward to that. The whole burning in hell thing. You know, I don't do well in the heat. I don't even really like beaches, okay? Not unless I'm under an umbrella. So I am not going to like the burning in the fiery furnace of the hellish end times. I am not a fan.